Nina Yana Watkins is about to shower in less than 7 minutes. Be on here for meditation, and so will Steve. Stay tuned and see how it all happens. My words today are healers, witnessing, and suicide. Steve, what words are you going to add?
Community.
Oh, I love that. All right, stay tuned. As we continue to practice, at least for today, however we might show up, and for how may we long stay, at least in today's journey of internal ways, allow yourself to continue to be in loving play, at least for these next 2 moments before we start our day's 10-minute internal intentional meditation with community that continues to focus on celebration of becoming the best version of ourselves very soon, with another minute for you to fully ground yourself and stay tuned. And as we continue to deepen with less than a minute, allow yourself to completely be now fully into it as a 10-minute practice starts. Whether there's a word or words to be said, allow everything to fumble out and not stay just in your head. Whether you be walking, at work, or still comfortable in bed, allow everything that does be said to be instead for your stead, not just where you are the best version of yourself, but where you witness your community take itself to the top shelf, not just in the ways that we speak of our world, but the way we support each other in this unfurl. With 10 minutes to go, allow yourself to be in such a beautiful state of peace and tranquility. And whether you speak a word or words, allow all of them to be felt and welcomed, whether they are said intentionally or vocally. Healers, witnessing, suicide, community,
Peace of mind.
Awareness.
Community, and for Livia, hope.
In today's midway reminder, allow yourself to be fair, not just in where you are improving, but where you are able to just sit and stare at all the beautiful thoughts and some that might not be as pretty, and allowing all of them to be loved, regardless to where they are in the community, whether they be a word you share or a word you feel. Either it be something that dissolves or feels so, so real, that words shape our world. And in this midway, we remember that all of them are here, or we have the choice to return to sender. It does not have to be something that you sit with very long, but allow yourself to witness and stand so strong that whether they be a word that you share or you release, allow all of it to be present and all of it to be at peace as we become the best version of ourselves with such ease. Allow yourself to be committed in the next few moments we have, at least at this beautiful practice today that you did not miss, and welcoming all that are here now and will show or might have to go in a couple minutes or so, and represencing ourselves to what has been shared in healers, witnessing, community, suicide, peace of mind, awareness, community, hope, and in redefining anything that we might be in love or realigning, to know everything is here to teach a lesson. And for whatever other word or words come out, allow them to be felt, greeted, and without any doubt, welcomed as they achieve whatever they are here to do, to have all of our worlds be the best point of view. Power. And in completion of the 10 minutes today, allow yourself to celebrate whether you can stay or you must go away, at least in creating whatever works for you today, knowing that we are recording and it is best ways, as we say, to know, regardless of what words are welcomed or what words are said, everything here is completely in our head until we share it with community, which is why we practice reciprocity, whether it be in our listening or in our expressing of what we're experiencing, allowing yourself to deepen not just your practice for yourself, but realize as you listen, that really sometimes is the best help, not just in having others feel heard, but also to process in all of their words that have them know it's not just in their head. We can all become the best version of ourselves if we make that space instead for other people to come and feel safe in where we are, knowing that we are brilliant, scintillating stars and we have much to still do, at least so far in this morning that we've come together on this beautiful day. Thank you so much. I'm wishing well on everyone in this Wednesday.
I'll jump in. I was having this amazing conversation with my cousin last night, and he had like a difficult interaction with somebody who who misheard something that happened in the background of a telephone conversation. Somebody misheard something that happened in the background from my cousin's end of the telephone conversation and felt like that it was my cousin saying it and not somebody in the background, and then took offense to it, and then kind of came up really aggressively at my cousin. And when my cousin was questioning it, he was like, like, where's this coming from? Like, I don't understand what's happening here. He was like, I heard that happened. Anyway, I went back and forth a little bit. And this guy who he was talking to said, his justification was like, I gotta, if somebody's gonna come at me, I gotta come at them. And, it had my cousin like really upset like the whole entire night. And he said to me, he was like, I don't understand why that it feels like everybody out there is just all about themselves and has no care and compassion or appreciation for anybody else except for themselves. And I was like, I hear that. I hear that. I see I've come to that conclusion a couple of times as well. And I said, I think that what I choose to believe is that people mistake self-care for self-centeredness. And that, you need to take care of yourself. Like, you need to, you have to pour into yourself. You need to love yourself. You need to embrace yourself. You need to have compassion for yourself. You need to acknowledge yourself and your value and your worth and all of that. But I think that it's easy to take that and go to an extreme with it and just be like, everything's about me. This world experience is about me. It's not really about anybody else. It's me, 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 me. And so this morning during the meditation, this conversation popped up in my head and I thought about self-centeredness. And I was like, what if we just like self-centeredness is just such a, it's, I react to the word self-centeredness with a lot of judgment. And I want to use the word self-prioritizing because it seems like a lot more it feels like a lot more in line with what we need. We need to self-prioritizing. We need to acknowledge that we need to prioritize ourselves in our lives. We need to prioritize what we need, what we require, um, what lights us up to self-prioritize. But it's not excluding anybody else. Like it's not pushing anybody else out of the line of vision or out of the circle. It's just saying that in this, I come first, but I'm still acknowledging everybody else around me. Myself above everybody in this moment. So there's like such space and room for compassion and awareness and all this other stuff, but just acknowledging that in my own life, I'm going to prioritize myself and then everybody else after that. I don't know. For me, it just seemed really to be more desirable for me to kind of focus on and to kind of lead into, like, what would that look like if I allowed myself to prioritize myself, but while still having the space and compassion and awareness and empathy for the rest of the people in the world around me, rather than look at it from like a self-centered place where I'm just the center of everything and everybody else is just like bleh. I don't know. It's an interesting thing for me to bring up.
I love that, Becky. It's so true that we don't want to. We want to be in that place of service and fulfilling our role and doing all that and not being selfish. But if we don't take care of ourselves in the process, it's like we're going to serve in a way that we're going to show up in a way that people don't even want to be around. It's like, so it's like, yeah, we have to prioritize that self-care. And just reminded of the morning rush, what we were talking about there. But yeah, investing in yourself, putting that as a priority. It's like, this is something I have to do and I gotta fit it in somewhere. And I'm not just gonna keep shoving it off to the side and let all everyone else's needs move that out of my life. Because if I'm not doing that, then I'm not really showing up for them in the way I want to show up. And I do want to just say to everyone today, Samira and Sammy and David and Janine, it's like the way, and Becky, the way you give to people in your lives, it's like you have this heart to serve. And I think that's kind of what our community here is kind of all about, is being in that place of service to others. And it's like we thrive on that. You know, we all thrive on that. And Becky, I just want to acknowledge again that human design thing. It's like every time I think about my human design, I think about you, and I just want to thank you. So thank you again. And I know that it's easy to start feeling, oh, what am I contributing? You know, it's like my life just isn't, like you're talking about, I'm catching up, I'm catching up. But it's like, in my mind, you are caught up. It's like you filled us, you know, and Samira, you too, and Sammy and David and Janine. It's like you just are filling people up, you know. And David, what you're talking about with your kids, it's like you just want to be there. I just love you guys. It's just it's amazing. But it's like in meditating on community, it's like community, what do we have in common? Yeah, it's based on the word common, I think, where to look it up. But that's what we have in common, you know. And that's why we love each other, is because that's our desire, is to contribute. And then knowing that as we contribute, that good things are going to happen. But in the midst of our contribution, we do need to take time to invest in ourselves and care for ourselves. And as a hermit, it's easy for me to say, I definitely need to do that. And then it's like, and then sometimes people perceive that as, oh, you're just being selfish. But it's like that I need to come out of that hermit thing and do my thing with people too, and the balance. But thank you everyone for all your contributions to this community. And I consider myself blessed to be a part of it.
Thank you, Steve. And I want to acknowledge that you didn't say what I thought you were going to say. On your morning rush, Becky, Steve was fangirling over your skin. I had to tell him that it's actually a backdrop. It's not an actual bookshelf. He's like, oh, look at all her books. I'm like, Steve, and I'm like, because that's part of our community too. Like, even though we're like David said, like we're all little boxes, and sometimes it's fun to see people play cameos. Like you had him like floored this morning by just your bookshelf. And it's not even that it's not a real background. It's what you choose to surround yourself with when you're presenting yourself. And I wanted to acknowledge that too, Steve, because I love loving Becky for giving you the human design, because I think about witnessing what you just said, even like a year ago, like when I came in for dinner that night, I was so excited. I'm like, guys, I'm an investigating heretic. It was like I had said the F word at the dinner table. Do you know what that is, Janine? I'm like, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Where I sat in witnessing today, what I sat in my meditation, and Steve knows too, is like, I had 12 minutes to like get ready, go forward. And at least for what it means for me to have suicide. Thank you so much for holding the space yesterday, Samira, Steve, and David, because having gotten what I did in the morning rush as we were ending that conversation, I just get what it means to like have love for people who are going through whatever they are. And knowing that no one can help anyone except for themselves. Like, honestly, if you try to help a butterfly, all you're really going to do is hinder it. In that moment, you're going to feel good, like you're doing something. Although in the long run of energy, you're really just taking away the ability for someone to learn how to fly. And Becky, I love that the other day, actually multiple times now, our community keeps using the trampoline experience. And I love that some people's trampolines are meant for them and other ones aren't. And it's just so beautiful, because one of the other things I really got from healers is how I hear us going through our spaces, because I'm so grateful also to Sammy, who holds the evening Wednesday guided meditation. I don't know how to guide, and I feel like it's such a gift to have a space that when you create a community, gifts come everywhere. And it was just so beautiful, because I know that in our community too, I'm not a parent, but I love celebrating our brother David this morning and having even though we don't know what it's going to look like, but from now on, Sammy, when you are meditating, David is going to practice being home and being still, because we know he does on a daily basis. Like, well, I want to say like the last 300 days straight, gym every night, like 10 p.m. He's pumping iron. And to know he'll be home on some of those occasions, and having Jax and Moxie just witness you being the father of the year in that community out there in Ohio. And I love it, because same with what Steve had said, like, yes, I don't know if it's common from like the derive of what community is, but that's what I get too. And I'm so complete as I watch Powerhouse Pam walk behind Sammy, and had Steve join this morning for the first time morning rush. And Samira, I would love the dates for your Tuesday night completion, because I get that another word that popped up for me as community was shared twice in our space this morning. I was like, wow, that's the thread right now. I get that communication is key, because community is created through our conversations, and sometimes it could be misunderstood. So thank you for bringing that up too, Becky. Like someone just passing by and you hear something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't believe you said that about me. Oh my God, I love your guys' love. And I want to witness everything that may open up for me. And the actions I want to really take today is to be still when people are feeling this is it. Like I am deciding to end something. And it might be something like a love language, and it might be a whole lifestyle, or it might actually be a consideration of ending life. And I'm like, if I can just witness where I can give up my righteousness of I know the way for this person, and just be the listening and reciprocity. I hope I have more days like I did yesterday, which because of the conversation I started yesterday around the leaving someone who had a thought of suicide, and instead me and Steve went to the movies with this person, and I feel like turned everything around. Like I dropped everything. Actually, and Steve, I would love to know how the movie ended. Because again, I had a meeting, but I made that 3-hour block because I realized that, like Rayanna has said, at least this morning, check in with your people. Like we don't know what they're going through. And sometimes, yeah, maybe you have a meeting and maybe you can't move it, but maybe you can be there for them and still do what's on your schedule. Because whatever is calling us to be the best version of ourselves, it's to show up sometimes when people are having the worst day for themselves. And I'm so grateful for everything that's been shared so far. So I'm complete. I'm going to put myself on, what's that called? Mute. And I'm going to continue to meditate on all the words I hear from all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I thank you. I have nothing. I have nothing to say. I'm just basking in the rays of your sunshine. That's what I'm doing right now. And you're amazing. Yeah, and yeah. So thank you so much for this community, for this, for this family.
I'm glad
You know,
Steve likes. Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
I'm gonna say one last thing. To convince someone or tell someone or control someone for their own safety, for their own benefit, as we think we're doing, rather than accepting them. Peter Swain said that his coach, I think it was a Tony Robbins coach or a landmark coach, said, listening is the poor man's acceptance. So when you're listening to your part, yeah, you heard that too, right, Janine? Yeah, listening is the poor man's acceptance. So I wonder if that could be applied to the world, global leaders, global communities, what's going on in the Middle East. Imagine if we stop talking to the other side and just accept. Imagine what would happen if we just listened. Like listen, what they had to go through when they were born, even before they were born. Like what did they inherit from their parents and for the years and generations that they've inherited? Like if I was born in that womb, I'd be the same way. If you were born in the womb that I was born, you'd be the same way. And just accepting that. Just because we're born in separate rooms doesn't mean that we can't accept each other. That's not an excuse.
Yeah, I call that listening deeper, which is going, you may see the person's anger or their depression, but what you want to really see is the source of that, which is their pain. And that's what we all can understand, because we all have pain in our lives and we create our responses to pain, but be it anger or depression. But it's like, what's that underlying thing that we all share, at that deeper human level? And then when we understand a person's pain, then we can see, yeah, I can see how you're depressed. I can see how you're angry, without endorsing what they've done in their anger, but I understand, it's like, I can see how you might not only feel that way, but act that way. But when we connect at the level of our pain, it's like, it's a deeper thing. And in listening, sometimes we get to that pain, and then the person feels like they are heard when they're able to share that deep pain. And I think that gives them hope, someone else understands, and the other thing I was thinking about during the morning rush, when we were talking about, a lot of people are feeling suicidal, is just a lot of times it's low blood sugar. It's the time of day where it's like, you haven't nourished your body and your blood sugar is low and you're getting all these negative thoughts, and I should just end it all. So maybe you just need to go and eat some nourishing food, and that will pass. Because often suicide is an impulsive thing. It just kind of sweeps over you, and then people do it. And I've heard that from people who've recovered, from suicide attempts. It's just, they just got to this point, where all of a sudden they couldn't take it anymore. But anyway, it's like, yeah, understanding one another's pain.
I was thinking after Rhiannon shared this morning about losing her friend to suicide, that she left behind 3 boys.
Oh, no.
I thought, you know, what if she were aware? Like, what if her three boys followed suit? Because they lost their mother and they lost their grandmother. And what if this created just a chain reaction? If she would have thought of that or had that awareness or that possibility would have come into her mind and play, would you have made the same choice? I think that we don't think about, I think a lot of times we're just so trapped in our own pain that we don't think about how it affects other people around us in our lives and how the way that we choose to deal with that pain affects those around us and in their lives. You know, a lot of what got me through my really hard times was the fact that I had all my children, right? I had my kids and I knew that I couldn't. While it was important for me to acknowledge my feelings and my pain or wherever I was in those really horrible low times of my life, it was important for me to just, you know, process them and allow it. Like, that's the reality. This is how I feel. It was that awareness of how if I stay here too long, how it affects those around me. Like, what am I, if I just allow myself to just sit here and wallow in it and allow it to consume me and allow myself to stay in this place that's bleeding onto my children and it's shifting some of that energy onto them. And that wasn't something that I wanted. I have so much love for my kids and so much compassion to my kids that it really was a great motivator for me to kind of just kind of like, okay, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to just really be in it. And then I'm going to put it on the shelf for the sake of my kids and for the sake of everybody else around me. And then I'll come back to it and I'll allow myself another 20 minutes if I still have much to process through it, right? If I still need to process through a lot of this stuff, I'll bring it back out for another 20 minutes and I'll put it on the shelf. And then you slowly kind of diminish that amount of time that you allow yourself to do that. And yeah, there's this show on Apple TV called Shrinking. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but in the show, they're like mourning the loss of. There's a man, he's a therapist, and he lost his wife, and his child is mourning the loss of, you know, their mother too. And I saw them play this out in the show where it was kind of like the daughter had like a grief that Harrison Ford's character told her like to have like a grief alarm and like you giving yourself so much time each day. And I saw it play out and I was like, yes, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So it's like, I know it's out there on the wavelength and it was like a really powerful honoring moment for how I chose to do things. And I was like, I'm not the only one that's with on this train about it. And I was like, it made me really happy to see that kind of play out in a TV show. But I did want to tell Steve my background. Thank you for liking it. So I'm a huge Beauty and the Beast girl. Like, I love Beauty and the Beast. I love reading. I love like it's from a little kid. Like that had been like my fairy tale was Beauty and the Beast. And as you get older, I became like a lot of, you know, you have to mature out of loving Beauty and the Beast, right? You can't be like that little girl obsessed with like a fairy tale. You have to mature out of it. And I kept on going, like, you know, like I'm a secret, like a closeted, like Beauty and the Beast fan. Like I'd constantly like take all this Beauty and the Beast stuff that would really make me happy, but I wouldn't share it with anybody and I wouldn't tell anybody that, You know, I'm a 45-year-old woman that's still massively obsessed with Beauty and the Beast, but that's pretty much me. I'm like this gothic Beauty and the Beast girl, and I've just decided to own it more. So I found this and it reminded me of like a modern day version of Belle of the library in the castle, and it really lit me up inside. And it made me so happy that I was just like, you know what? I have nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm a Beauty and the Beast girl. I'm owning it. I kind of put that up there in my background, and it made me happy to hear that it made you happy because it makes me happy. I'm complete. Thank you.
Yeah, I love the Beauty and the Beast. It's the whole meme is, you know, the power of love to overcome societal expectations and to find love in what most people would regard as not very beautiful. But it's like we all have our beauty. We are, as Peter was reminding us today in the morning rush, we are all awesome. We all have value, and it's like to celebrate that value and to communicate that value to others. It's just such a beautiful thing. And I did want to get back on the topic of suicide just a little, because I know there's some people like you have a very enlightened perspective there, Becky, where it's like you're actually thinking outside of the box of your pain and thinking about how my action might impact others. And that's a high degree of moral thinking. But a lot of people, they get to the point where the pain is the same every day, and maybe eating something doesn't help that much. And it's like everyday pain, because they're stuck in this negative rut of thinking and beliefs that don't serve them. And at that point, it's like the alternative of suicide becomes like a logical thing. This is probably what I should do to escape all this horrible pain. And it's like at that point, you know, that's when people do that deed, because they've come to that. They just can't stand the pain anymore. And I think what people need to realize is that there is a way out of that pit, you know, whether it's through God or counseling. And I know the thing about counseling, it's like a lot of people say, well, I tried counseling, it didn't work. And then the door is shut on counseling. But it's like what I've learned and seen happen is that like you keep looking for the counselor that you connect with that's going to help you. You just don't stop and say, well, it didn't work. But you find the counselor that's going to work. And you know when you find that person, you have that connection, you start to have hope. And so the people that you know that are suicidal that say, it's like, well, I tried counseling, it didn't work. Just encourage them, you know, just keep going till you find someone that gives you hope. And I saw that happen in my daughter's life. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing, because she was, you know, anyway, yeah.
I wish Victoria was here because I feel like I'm channeling her right now, Becky. And I wrote it in the chat. When will you allow your 45-year young self play punk princess? And when will you let us know next time you do it? Because yeah, what you were just sharing too, and I love it, is that, and granted, it's interesting because I know me and Steve were on that call, but I think again, we were so enthralled with just like seeing different people that he knew in our communities that he's like, oh my God, they're here too. And so I didn't fully absorb that she had left behind those children. And so when you were sharing that, I get, as you sharing not only as a sister, but also someone who is in this community as a mother, like monkey see, monkey do, but more than monkey see, monkey be, like to also feel that, to also go through that. Steve, I know out of everyone, even more than just the definition of empathy, like you have people in your family that truly feel the sadness for a dog on a Hallmark movie. And so it's beautiful to watch how you're sharing right now. I see that when you've been sharing about your daughter, where yesterday's conversation is so beautiful, because there are people in our communities that, like Rhiannon had said, like maybe they don't know how, and they almost, like, honestly, I was talking to Daniel about this yesterday. Some of you know him. He's my boyfriend. Where sometimes when you're in that darkness, and I don't get it, but I saw his point. When you're in that darkness, sometimes you literally feel like you removing yourself is the best thing. Like you don't even think like they might do this. And so it was interesting having that, because if I compliment it with Rhiannon, I think that's why there's not just one human on this planet, because there are some people who feel like if they disappear, it'll make it easier. And I feel like our community is that challenge to like show up and be like, hey, like you make a difference. Even if we're just going to sit in a movie and you realize like you not having those thoughts aren't not powerful, but they don't have to control this current moment. Let's go get some popcorn. Because I recognize like you're sharing too, Becky, like I might not experience what it's like to be a mother. And I get that in that mother's position, when she took her life yesterday, she really, I honestly, I grieve with her feeling that was the only option. And I'm also advocating and celebrating every mother who, and father, I'm going to say father too, who saw, I'm going to do this one more day because that might happen. And I just, this conversation, like 180 from my experience yesterday. And so I'm really grateful that this practice is going deeper, because I feel like the more voices that are talking about how communities might be experiencing this, it has me really in practice today of wanting to know how to be compassionate. And thank you, Sammy, for bringing that back, because I realize that's almost what I want to add. Listening is the poor man's acceptance, and witnessing sometimes is also, I guess, the poor woman's tolerance, because I don't think any one person is able to say that they haven't experienced that loss. But some of us just say like, oh, like we got to push it down and be strong for others. And I'm grateful that this community allows us to have softness for those who might be experiencing it. And yeah, again, Becky, I want to go back to asking you, like, are you allowing your 54 young self to play punk princess whenever you want? Because it doesn't have to be Disney, but little girls and boys who want to have their novelty castles and live into those lifestyles, it's never too old, and you never have to give up on those dreams.
So this is really, really funny. Yes, I'm owning it now. I'm totally owning it. And so much so that I went out and I found I found something that I've been looking for a long, long time. And even though it was just kind of like outside of really what I was planning on doing, I just kind of spent the money and got it. I don't know. Hold on a second. Let me see if anybody could see this. Oh. It's owning. It's all the red roses. I'm like such a red rose girl because I've been a Beauty and the Beast girl most of my life. I'm obsessed with Paris. I didn't even put the connections together. I have pictures of the Eiffel Tower in Paris all around my room, all around my house. I've been obsessed with red roses from a very young age. And a lot of my friends used to make fun of me because it's such like a traditional flower, and everybody wanted to do some more exotic flowers. This is their flower. And I was like, I like red roses. That was always my thing. And yeah, I'm just like fully, I'm putting it all together, and I'm realizing how it's like Beauty and the Beast, Paris, everything, red roses, everything. It's just, it makes me laugh, and it brings me a lot of joy to just kind of like own it and accept it. Like that's just, that's the fair, that speaks to me. It speaks to a huge part of my soul and about a huge part of who I am. And I'm not embarrassed about it anymore, how that might come across. But I do want to circle back to our topic and our discussion right now, because, you know, this is something that I think more people need to understand. Okay, so probably the biggest pit of my depression, like the worst that it's ever got to me, was right after, many years ago, when I found out that my husband had had an affair. And I caught me off guard. I was blindsided by it. And I was absolutely destroyed. He told me, and basically he told me that he was leaving me like the same night. And it was such a shock. It was such a trauma that every single morning that I woke up, the first thing I told myself in my mind was, this is the reality. He had an affair. He's rejecting you. You're not enough. He left you. He had an affair. He's rejecting you. You're not enough. He left you. Again and again, like repeated, cycle after cycle after cycle. Anytime I allowed myself a moment to laugh or to experience something really great, that voice came into my head. This is your reality. He did this. He rejected you. You're not enough. Blah, blah, blah. Repeat, 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 repeat. It is a living hell that I could not turn off. At that time, I hadn't done all my work. I hadn't trained. I hadn't learned all the things that I knew. So I was being held hostage is the only way that I could to think of it. I was being held hostage by these thoughts that were just every second that I experienced something that was remotely pleasurable or joyful, these thoughts would come in just to destroy it and to kill it and to knock it down. And I went to some very, very, very dark places. I had no escape from it. I didn't see a way out. I didn't see a light. I was completely drowning. And it was my kids that kept me going. Just the thought, I gotta take care of my kids. They don't have anybody else. They have me. They don't have anybody else. They have me. And that kind of kept me going. And, as, as many of you do know, my husband came back and we worked through it, and we are the best relationship. I have like the relationship of my dreams now. Like, I love that man, like with everything that I have. And our relationship did a complete 180, and it's like the dream relationship now, but it took work to get there. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot from both of us. Like, my husband pretty much for years had to wake up every morning knowing, at least that first year it was really bad, wake up every morning knowing what my mind was going through and meeting me on what I needed to hear, meeting me with the truth in counter to what was being heard in my head. Every single morning, again and again and again, he would get my tells. He would get my looks when I was in it, when I was hearing it, when I was being held hostage. And he would come to me and he would talk me through it, and he would talk me through it, and it will talk me through it. People that are in this state are being held hostage by these thoughts, by these beliefs, by these emotions. They are being held hostage. And they need people around them to pour into them and to help them hear another voice, hear a way out of it, because it's screaming so loud. They need people pouring into their lives every single day, multiple times a day. And a lot of people just aren't equipped to do it. A lot of people get tired of it. A lot of people are like, I don't understand why you just haven't got it by now. I'm telling you again and again, the same thing, and you're just not getting it. A lot of people aren't equipped to kind of step up for people the way that they need it. But it works. It might seem like a fruitless conversation. It might seem like this is going nowhere for me just to keep saying the same things again and again and again and again. But I'm telling you, it's working. It's just a lot to get through. It's a lot to clear out. It's a lot to get past. But you keep on doing it. You keep on pouring into these people because your voice is sometimes the only thing that's holding it together. Your presence is sometimes the only thing that's holding it together. And it's a lot. Like it's a lot of emotion. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of pain. And when it's not our own, it makes us uncomfortable, right? It's very uncomfortable to feel everybody else's profound pain, and we want to break from it, and we don't really want to be involved in it. And it's really great for people to start and pour in, and then they just want to go the other way because it becomes too much. And that's a reality. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. But pouring into people again and again and again and again, it makes a difference. It really, really does. And I don't know if anybody else has been in that place, but I know I have. And I know the reality of it. So I have a lot of freaking compassion for people that are in that place, that are dealing with that much. And I know how lonely it is because you feel all alone, because you're the only one that's being held hostage. And that's you're in a world where everybody else is going around you and everybody else is happy, and you're being held hostage, and nobody else really understands or knows what's going on inside of you. And just, pour into them. Pour into them, even if it's saying the same thing. Like, it almost got rote sometimes with my husband. He had like the whole speech down, but I needed to hear it. Like, I needed to hear it again and again and again and again and again. And he always showed up with it. Even if it's the same speech that you're telling somebody every single day, even if it's the same text message that you're sending them every single day, that makes a difference. It's huge. It's huge in helping them pull out. And it takes a while. It takes a long time sometimes, a really long time. But without that, it's so easy to understand why people they feel trapped. They feel unheard. Nobody else understands what's going on. They feel all alone. And I get it. So just sharing perspective.
And it is so hard to deal with that pain, because it's like you want the pain to go away. So you're giving all your best suggestions on how to make the pain go away, and it's not going away. And it's like, at that point, you just want to give up and push the person away. They're not going to listen. It's hopeless. So their hopelessness comes to you. You start thinking it's hopeless. And I can't deal with that burden anymore. So I can't deal with it. So I'm getting depressed. So it's like, I'm just going to back out, kindly back out. And what that leaves that person in is just alone with their pain. And then they have no hope whatsoever. So for the loved ones that are around that, it's like, as you're saying, Becky, it's like, we have to remember that we have to hang in there, and just repeating back to the person what they're saying to us. Is this what you're saying? Or I see that I understand that would be really difficult to, just being there. What did your husband say to you? I mean, just give me an example of the script.
He would say to me, it's okay. You're safe. No, he would start with that. It's okay that you're safe. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. You are enough. I love you with everything that I am. I'm sorry that you're going through this. I'm sorry that you're hurting. But you are everything to me. You are enough. And I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, and I'm with you, and I have you.
Wow.
And he would tell me that again and again, and he would tell me it would be okay. And he would just remind me every day, you are enough. You are more than enough. You are everything to me. And
Yeah.
again and
Beautiful.
again, every single, like multiple times a day. And I would just send him a text, and he would just send me everything back that I needed to hear. And like it meant everything to me. Like, I needed to see it. I needed to hear it. I needed a break in the noise. I needed a break in the hostage script that was going through my head. I remember I wasn't equipped. I wasn't at the place that I am now. I wasn't equipped to analyze what was happening and understand what was happening. I was just a hostage in my own mind and in my own emotions. And nothing made sense about it to me. Like, that was another thing. It was that I would keep on going through, like, because nothing that happened made sense. And the investigator part of me, my human design, needed to make sense of this. I needed to investigate. I needed to figure this out. I needed to understand it. I need to test it out to see if this was true. Nothing made sense to me, except the absolute worst possible thing that I could think about was the only thing that made sense to me, was that I just wasn't enough. And it had nothing to do with me. And I don't know how many times, how many therapists, how many people had told me that it's nothing to do with you. This actually has absolutely nothing to do with you at all. I couldn't accept that. It had to be about me, or else why would it happen to me? And it wasn't about me. And it took me a freaking long time to accept that. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. This was all about my husband finding his own way out of all his own demons, out of his own past, out of his own childhood, out of his own toxic beliefs, out of his own, self-worth issues. Like, this was about him finding his way out. He had to burn the world down in order for that shift to happen. And sometimes people do that, right? Let's get real. Sometimes people need to burn their worlds down in order to rebuild something better or stronger, or just to start over. And it was about that experience. This wasn't about me. But you couldn't convince me that at the time. And I had, the reason why this was effective was because my husband was my best friend. And he was coming up to me not as somebody who betrayed me as my partner. He was coming to me as my best friend. So I took his voice, and he was able to help me because that was the hat he was wearing. He was my best friend showing up for me. And it meant everything to me. Like, I was able to separate that, and accept him and welcome him in and have his voice be meaningful to me, because he was my best friend. And yeah, it's such like I have so much compassion and empathy for people that are going through stuff like that, that people that are grieving, that people that are suffering, because I had been depressed before, but it was never an experience like that. It was never so torturous. It was torture. It was absolute torture. It's the only words that I can do to describe it. And, knowing that, I share this with you so that if this plays out in front of you, that you have at least a point of view or a perspective. Like, this person could actually be tortured. Like, it's more than just being depressed. It's more than just not snapping out of it. And you think after a while, like, oh, well, they're getting something out of this. They're getting something out of being this way all the time. They don't really want to help themselves. They don't really want to have a way out of it. Like, we're spending all this time pouring into them. They should be snapping out of it. They don't want to. That's on them. And we tend to kind of want to brush our hands and like walk away from the whole thing. And no, that's not. I'm not saying that that's never the case, but I don't believe that's really what's happening. I really believe that they need almost kind of like it was really funny because my husband had written me down like all these acclamations. So if he couldn't get to me and tell them to me like on the phone or in person, I would have a letter that would get out and I would read through them all again and again and again and again and again to remind myself. And then he would make a recording, and he would make a recording of him saying all the things that I needed to hear. So in case he wasn't around or available, I would hear all the things that I needed to hear again and again and again and again and again and again. And I didn't have anybody else pouring into me. The reality was that nobody else wanted to help me navigate through because everybody was pissed off that I was staying. And I was trying to work this through. And everybody had judgments and everybody shamed me. For what? Do you have no self-respect? I can't believe that you're still doing this. I can't believe that you're still here. You're asking for it. Any pain that you're going through, you've asked for it because of the choices that you're making. So nobody else was there. Like people just kind of scattered with judgment. And thank God that I had my best friend showed up for me the way that he did. So even if you can't physically pour into these people, even if you're busy and you got stuff going on, there's ways you can do that. He wrote letters, he made recordings, he did text messages, checked in. There's ways to continue to show up. And I can tell you right now that it might seem like a fruitless effort on your end, but it's meaningful. Even if you're not seeing the results of it, I'm telling you right now, it's meaningful. It's important. It's making a difference.
Becky, thank you so much. And I do know it's the top of the hour, so as people may be able to stay in the beautiful summary we're going to create today, allow yourself to be present to everything that was shared and everything that's still left unshared, everything that we are rebuilding. And like Becky had mentioned, ripping up so it can be repaired, not because it was wrong, but just because it wasn't right, at least in what we're creating and becoming the best version of ourselves in sight. Not only how people feel us, but how they can truly need us as we continue to not only be the best version, but we can truly say we believe in us, not just in this community, but in all the conversations to come, and for everything that has been done and everything that is left undone. I would love to know what we are releasing and receiving before we complete with at least today's meditation of 10 minutes with ending. I don't know, that didn't rhyme, but yeah.
Yeah, my summation for our time together is that we're around people who are depressed and they're struggling and hostage to the thoughts of I'm not enough, I have no value, I've made bad choices and now it's coming home to roost and there's nothing I can do and I deserve this suffering, what all those thoughts, it's like the fact that I'm showing up says you do have value, you are enough, and you can overcome the bad choices because I believe in you. I am here for you. And I loved what your husband was saying to you. It's okay, you're safe. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. You're enough. I love you. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm here for you. It's like just doing that is really all that's required. I don't have to give the person the answer. I can just say, I've showed up. I see you. I value you. And that is enough at that point. That's conveying love.
That's a beautiful gift. I'm releasing. This is the reason why I became a healer. This is the reason why my niche as a healer is self-love, self-worth, self-compassion work. And relationships. Those are my strong suits as a healer. That is my biggest strength, is because I've done the work. I did the research. I did the training. I did everything. And I've seen my life transform as a result of everything that I poured into it. I've seen my life transform. I've seen my relationships transform. I've seen my relationship with myself transform. And the space that I've been able to create for myself transform completely. And I know how important this work is. And I know how desperately it is needed. And that is really my jam, what I'm all about and what I'm here for. So what I'm releasing right now is all the energy and the memories and everything that brings up for me. I'm releasing it from my body. It served its purpose here today, and I'm letting it go. And I'm just allowing myself to really experience the rewards and the beauty and the love of all my ascendants, all my ascendants. So thank you guys for listening to me. I know I dominated most of the talk today, and I thank you for your graciousness. Thank you.
As always, we are honored to hold any bucket that has people let go of things, that have them know that eventually, in turn, we all do. We all hold the bucket. What I'm releasing today is, and I love that we went, Jen, I didn't know you were gonna hop onto that part, but it's interesting because what I released is any separation, that these conversations will make people feel uncomfortable. Because honestly, I'd rather the discomfort happen now before it is too late. And so as I release separation, what I really receive is just wholeness. Like, I can literally step into any conversation, like previously on, someone overheard a conversation and made it about them. Like, and I witness what that can do, and that we're willing to do the work to at least have the conversation, to have them know, I feel that you felt that way. I acknowledge that that's what you absorbed, and I'm here for you to just release that, because it wasn't about you, love. Like, it literally, it had nothing to do. And so as I hear that through our community, I'm like, okay, where does that happen to me? And where does that might happen to people in my life? Then I don't even know that that's a misunderstanding. And so I see all of that. And again, my action is just wherever I can just witness. I'm just holding that. I'd love to hear from Sammy or Pam if you're still there too, or Jen, because you've now been with us for about 7 minutes. So, and then we will pick up office hours right after this. But yeah, and then I'll stop recording.
Yeah, Becky, I want to thank you for all your vulnerability, and it's been so valuable, not just to me, but to Pam here, and I don't like speaking for people, but also to my cousin Samita, who left. And thank you for being a stand for people and for love.
And the other thing I'm going to release is this idea that I have to fix people. You know, I'm not going to fix anyone. I'm not going to help that butterfly out of the cocoon. If I do, it's probably going to mess it up. So it's like, I could just be there and witness the process and show up with non-judgmental love and be supportive. And that's enough. And pray for him too. But yeah.
As we breathe in everything we've released, and as we release everything that is within, knowing that this journey often can feel inevitably like it's the ending every time we begin. And as we continue to complete not just the words in our worlds, as we continue to hold space for others in this infernal, allow yourself to know that in the next 12 hours or 24, we are coming together again for just a little bit more, not just in the way that we are witnessed, but how we create worth. And thank you, everyone, not only for your commitment to yourself, but in that moment to serve in someone else, in your conversation and actions. And thank you so much for taking it upon yourself, this responsibility in so much that is continuing, not just in my hearing, but also in my being. And I hope that ripple is for you as well, as I continue to be in this believing that we are the best version of ourselves. And every day we get to come back together to remind ourselves it's a play that we do every day because it's fun, and it may not be easy, but it's always so worth it. And continue in pleasing, not just in yourself, but everyone else. And thank you for being here again for today and for everything that helps. I love you all so much. And who amongst us will possibly be here for this evening's meditation with Sammy, or tomorrow morning for another 10-minute practice? Heck yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for those who were able to stay. My room is going to be open because me and Jen are doing office hours. And thank you, everyone, for being part of the first 10 minutes.
Boy, Daddy.
Bye, everyone. Love you.